My wife announced at dinner, "I'm reconnecting with my college boyfriend. Platonically. You're being controlling if you object." I replied, "You're right, I trust you." Then I reconnected with her best friend. Platonically. Her reaction when she found out taught her a new definition of controlling. I, 38 male, have been married to my wife for 11 years. 2 kids, ages 8 and 6. Decent house with a mortgage we can actually afford. I work as a logistics manager for a distribution company. She's in pharmaceutical sales. Combined income around $185,000. We were, by most metrics, doing fine. Not perfect, but fine. We argued about the usual stuff. Who forgot to switch the laundry? Whose turn it was to pick up the kids? Whether we could afford the vacation she wanted. Normal marriage stuff. Keyword, were. 3 weeks ago, we're having dinner. Kids are at the table, eating their chicken nuggets, completely oblivious. My wife puts down her fork and says, with zero build-up, "I've been thinking. I want to reconnect with my college boyfriend. We've been messaging on LinkedIn, and I think it would be healthy to have coffee with him." I stopped chewing, literally mid-bite. Your college boyfriend, the one you dated for 2 years. The one you told me was the one that got away at our engagement party after 3 glasses of wine. She rolled her eyes. That eye roll. I've been seeing it more and more over the past year. That was years ago. We're adults now. It's purely platonic. He's married too, and his wife knows about this coffee date. It's not a date. Why do you have to make everything sound sinister? It's 2 old friends catching up, and I don't know his wife's opinion because, frankly, it's none of her business. Just like it's none of yours. I set my fork down slowly. So you're telling me, not asking me. I'm telling you because I respect you enough to be transparent. But yes, this isn't a negotiation. I'm allowed to have friends. I'm allowed to have a social life outside of you and the kids. If you object to that, it's controlling behavior, and frankly, I expected better from you. The kids were staring now. My 8-year-old asked if we were fighting. My wife smiled sweetly and said, "No, honey, Daddy just needs to process his emotions. He sometimes has trouble with change." Something cold settled in my chest. Not anger exactly, more like recognition. I'd seen this pattern before. The rehearsed speech, the preemptive accusations, the framing that made any objection proof of my inadequacy. She prepared for this conversation. She knew what she wanted and had constructed the entire moral framework to make me the villain if I disagreed. "You're absolutely right," I said. "I trust you completely. Have a great time." She blinked. Clearly wasn't expecting that. Really? Platonic friendships are important. You deserve to maintain connections outside our marriage. I've actually been meaning to reconnect with some old friends myself. She smiled, relieved. Her shoulders dropped from that defensive posture. See? That's the mature response. I knew you'd come around once you thought about it rationally. I smiled back. I always do. What she didn't know was that I'd already started forming a plan. Not revenge exactly. More like an experiment in consistency. If these were really the rules, I wanted to see if they applied equally. See, my wife is a best friend. They've been close since grad school, about 14 years now. This friend is single, attractive, and has always been genuinely warm toward me. Not flirty, just kind. She remembered my birthday, asked about my work, actually listened when I talked. She's come to every birthday party, every holiday dinner. She was in our wedding as maid of honor. Over the years, my wife has made pointed comments about how I should keep my distance from her. Nothing explicit, just little jabs. "You two seem cozy tonight." She laughed a lot at your jokes. Don't get any ideas. She's off limits. I always laughed it off. I had zero interest in anything inappropriate. But the double standard was always there, simmering just below the surface. The day after my wife's announcement, I sent her best friend a message on Instagram. Nothing weird. Just, "Hey, haven't talked one-on-one in a while. Would love to catch up over coffee sometime. Been going through some stuff and could use a friend's perspective." She replied within an hour. "Of course. Is everything okay? You seem stressed lately. I'm free Thursday if that works." Thursday worked perfectly. Update 1, 2 weeks later. A lot has happened. Buckle up. My wife had her platonic coffee with her college ex twice, actually. The first one was supposed to be an hour, just a quick catch-up. She came home 3.5 hours later, glowing, talking about how amazing it was to reconnect, how he's doing so well in his career, how his marriage is complicated, but he's working through it. Red flags everywhere. Complicated marriage is code for looking for an exit, and we all know it. But I kept my mouth shut, just smiled and said, "That's great, honey. I'm glad you had fun." Second coffee happened a week later. This time, she didn't tell me beforehand. I only found out because our daughter mentioned Mommy's friend with a nice car when I asked about her day. Turns out my wife picked her up from school with him in the passenger seat. She introduced our kids to him without so much as a heads up to me. When I asked about it that night, she got defensive immediately. He was in the area. I was picking up the kids anyway. It's not a big deal. Why are you interrogating me? I'm not interrogating. I just asked who he was because our daughter mentioned him. And now you're using our children to spy on me? That's really low. She volunteered the information. I didn't ask leading questions. You're making this into something it's not. This is exactly the controlling behavior I warned you about. I won't be monitored like a teenager. I nodded slowly. You're right. My bad. She looked surprised that I'd backed down so easily, but moved on. Topic closed. Meanwhile, I'd had 3 coffee meetups with her best friend, all completely appropriate. We talked about life, work, her dating struggles, my marriage stress, in vague terms. Nothing physical, nothing romantic, nothing that would raise eyebrows if anyone saw us. Just 2 friends having genuine conversations at a public coffee shop in broad daylight. She was actually helpful. She noticed things about my wife that I've been blind to. She's always needed a lot of attention, she told me once. In grad school, she'd get weird if her boyfriends talked to other women, but she'd flirt constantly and claim it was just her personality. But here's the thing about my wife. She has a network. Her friends talk to each other constantly. And her best friend, being an honest person, mentioned to another mutual friend that she'd been hanging out with my husband lately because he seemed like he needed someone to talk to. That information traveled through the network in about 48 hours. My wife came home from work last Wednesday, absolutely livid. Slammed the door so hard the pictures on the wall rattled. You've been seeing my best friend behind my back. I was on the couch, reading a book. Didn't even look up. Not behind your back. I told you I was reconnecting with old friends. She's my friend, not yours. She's been in our lives for 14 years. I'd say she's both our friend at this point. You're doing this to punish me. This is some kind of sick revenge. Now I looked up, kept my voice calm. Punish you for what? Having platonic coffee with an old friend? I thought that was healthy adult behavior. I thought objecting would be controlling. Her face went through about 6 different expressions in rapid succession. Fury, confusion, realization, denial, more fury. That's different. How? Because he's not your best friend. She's mine. You have no right to just appropriate my friendships. I have no right to have friends? Interesting. When you said that to me 3 weeks ago, you called it controlling behavior. What's the word for it when you say it? She sputtered. Actually sputtered. I'd never seen her at a complete loss for words before. It was almost fascinating. This is manipulation, she finally said. You're trying to manipulate me. I'm trying to understand the rules. You can have coffee with your ex-boyfriend who you once called the one that got away. I can't have coffee with a mutual friend of 14 years. Help me understand the logic. The logic is that I trust myself and I don't trust you. And there it was. The truth, finally out in the open. So it was never about controlling behavior, I said quietly. It was about you doing whatever you want while I followed different rules. She didn't answer, just stormed into the bedroom and slammed the door. That night, I slept on the couch. Not because she kicked me out, because I needed space to think about what came next. The next morning, she tried a different approach. Tears this time. She came out red-eyed, voice shaky. I'm sorry, I yelled. I was just surprised. I didn't expect you to. I just felt betrayed. Betrayed by what specifically? By you going behind my back with my friend. I didn't go behind your back. I told you I was reconnecting with friends. You didn't ask who. You assumed. Because I assumed you meant your friends. Not mine. She's not your property. She's a person who can choose to spend time with whoever she wants. That's what you told me about your ex, remember? More tears. Why are you being so cruel? I'm not being cruel. I'm being consistent. I applied the exact same logic you gave me. If that feels cruel, maybe examine the logic. She went to work without another word. That afternoon, I got a text from her mother. Here we go. I heard you've been upsetting my daughter. A good husband supports his wife, not tears her down. She's been crying all morning. This isn't the man I thought you were. I replied, with respect, this is between my wife and me. I'd appreciate you not getting involved. She's my daughter. I have every right to protect her from someone who's supposed to love her. Protect her from what? Me having coffee with a friend? No response after that. But I knew this was just the beginning of the family involvement. Update 2, 1 week later. Things escalated faster than I expected. My wife took our kids to her mother's house for the weekend without telling me. Just packed them up and left. I came home Friday to an empty house and a text. Kids and I are at mom's. I need space to think. Don't contact us. I called immediately. Went to voicemail. Tried again. Same thing. Texted. You can't just take the kids without discussion. That's not okay. Her response. I can do whatever I want with MY children. You're being controlling again. You need help. That word again. Controlling. She'd completely weaponized it. Any boundary I set, any objection I raised, any expectation of basic communication, all controlling behavior. It was genius, really. She'd found a magic word that automatically made her the victim in any disagreement. I called a family lawyer that afternoon, not to file anything, just to understand my rights. Turns out, in our state, either parent can take the kids anywhere during the marriage as long as there's no custody agreement in place. But if she tried to establish residency at her mother's house for an extended period, that could complicate things in a future divorce. The lawyer's advice: document everything. Don't escalate. Let her make the mistakes. Be the reasonable one. So I documented. Screenshots of texts. Timeline of events. Notes on every conversation I could remember. Saturday morning, I got a call from her best friend. She was clearly upset. Your wife called me last night. She's furious. She said I betrayed her, that I was trying to steal her husband, that our 14-year friendship is completely over. I'm sorry. I genuinely never wanted to cause problems between you two. You didn't cause this. She did. I told her the truth, that we just had coffee, that nothing happened, that I was just being a friend to both of you during a difficult time. She didn't care. She said I picked your side, and that's unforgivable. That's really extreme. That's who she apparently is. I'm seeing a side of her I never knew existed. She was screaming at me on the phone, saying I was a terrible friend, that I'd always secretly wanted you, that I was probably sleeping with you this whole time. 14 years of friendship gone in one phone call, because she didn't like something that inconvenienced her narrative. None of what she accused you of is true. I know, but she doesn't care about truth. She cares about control. It's ironic, isn't it? She kept calling you controlling, but the second something didn't go exactly her way. Ironic word choice indeed. Sunday afternoon, my wife came home with the kids. No warning, no discussion, no apology. Just walked in like nothing had happened, kids trailing behind her looking confused. Mom helped me realize I was overreacting, she announced. I'm willing to forgive you for all of this. We can move forward. I was at the kitchen table, working on my laptop. Forgive me for what? For the whole situation. We both made mistakes. Let's just move forward and put it behind us. What mistakes did I make specifically? She hesitated. You went behind my back with my friend. I had coffee with someone I've known for 14 years. You had coffee with your ex-boyfriend you described as the one that got away. You introduced him to our children without telling me. You spent 3.5 hours with him when it was supposed to be 1. Which one is actually behind someone's back? I don't have feelings for him. You told our 8-year-old daughter he had a nice car. You came home glowing after every meeting with him. But my hour-long coffees with a mutual friend at a public coffee shop are the problem? That's different. You keep saying that. It never is. She stood there processing. I could see her cycling through strategies. Which approach would work this time? Tears hadn't worked. Outrage hadn't worked. Maybe threats would work. Her face hardened into something new. Fine, if that's how you want to play this. I want a divorce. I looked at her for a long moment. Search her eyes for any sign of genuine feeling. Just calculation. Okay, that's IT. What did you expect? Begging? You've spent 3 weeks telling me I'm controlling for applying the same standards to myself that you applied to yourself. You took our kids without telling me. You accused your best friend of sleeping with your husband based on zero evidence. You want a divorce? Okay, let's get divorced. She looked genuinely lost, like she'd expected this threat to end the conversation, to bring me to heel. Not to. Start a new chapter. You don't mean that. I absolutely do. I'll call my lawyer tomorrow. We can work out custody, division of assets, all of it. If this is what you want, I won't fight you on it. I was just what? Testing me? Manipulating me? Throwing out ultimatums until I cave? That's not how adults handle things. You can't threaten divorce as a power play and then act surprised when I take you seriously. She started crying. Real tears this time, I think. Her whole body shook. I don't want a divorce. I want you to fight for me. I fought for you for 11 years. I'm not going to fight against you for the rest of my life. She went to bed crying. I stayed on the couch again. But something fundamental had shifted. The conversation we'd been avoiding for years had finally happened, and there was no taking it back. The next morning, her mother showed up at 7 a.m., pounding on the door hard enough to wake the kids. "How dare you?" she screamed the second I opened it. "My daughter is inside crying because you're abandoning her and those babies." She asked for a divorce. I agreed. How was that abandonment? She didn't mean it. She was upset. A real man would know that and would fight for his family. A real man recognizes when his wife threatens divorce. It's time to take it seriously. "Please leave." "I will not leave until you." "Then I'll call the police for trespassing." "Your choice." She left, but not before promising that I'd regret this and that she'd make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are. Update 3. 3 weeks later, final update. Here's how everything ended up. My wife didn't file for divorce, but I did. After that conversation, she tried everything in her arsenal. Tears every night for a week. Apologies, though notably never for anything specific. Promises to never talk to him again, her ex. Accusations that I was emotionally abusive for not accepting her apologies. She even tried seduction one night, coming to bed in lingerie she hadn't worn in years. That was honestly insulting. Like our entire marriage could be fixed with one good night. When none of that worked, she changed tactics. She told our kids that Daddy is making Mommy move out. Our daughter came to me, crying, asking why I didn't love Mommy anymore, why I was breaking our family apart. That was the lowest blow, using the children as emotional weapons. I sat both kids down and explained, in age-appropriate terms, that sometimes grown-ups have problems they can't fix and that both Mommy and Daddy would always love them no matter what. I never blamed their mother, never said anything bad about her, just tried to reassure them that they were loved. Then I called my lawyer and added parental alienation attempt to my documentation file. The divorce filing happened 2 weeks ago. My wife was served at work, which wasn't my choice. That's just how the process server scheduled it. But she acted like I'd publicly humiliated her on purpose, calling me screaming about how everyone in her office saw the papers. She hired her own attorney, someone her mother recommended. First thing they did was file for temporary exclusive use of the marital home, claiming I was creating a hostile environment and that she didn't feel safe. My lawyer countered with all my documentation, her taking the kids without notice, her mother showing up screaming at 7 a.m., her attempts to turn the kids against me, her termination of a 14-year friendship based on nothing. The judge denied her motion. She had to stay in the house with me until a proper hearing. Then came financial discovery. This is where things got really interesting. Remember those platonic coffee dates with her ex? Turns out they weren't all coffee. Our credit card statements showed lunches at expensive restaurants, dinners, a spa day at a place that charges $400 for a couple's massage, all on our joint credit card. Over $3,200 in charges to places I'd never heard of in just 2 months. My lawyer asked for an explanation. Her lawyer claimed it was normal friendship expenses and that my client was reaching. My client has receipts showing dinners for 2 at restaurants averaging $180 per meal. Does your client typically spend $180 on a platonic lunch? No answer. And this spa treatment, it's listed as a couple's package. Does your client often get couples massages with platonic friends? Still no answer. The best part? Her ex-boyfriend's wife found out about everything too. Not from me, from their own credit card statements, apparently. She called me directly one afternoon, asking if I knew what was going on. Your husband and my wife have been having platonic coffees for 2 months, I told her. That's all I know for certain. Platonic coffees don't include couples spa treatments, she said. And they definitely don't include whatever happened at the hotel 3 weeks ago. I found that receipt too. Hotel. 3 weeks ago. News to me. I don't know anything about a hotel, I said honestly. Then you should check your statements again. I found it on ours. Same night, same place. 2 rooms booked, but only 1 used, from what I can tell. I thanked her for the information and immediately forwarded it to my lawyer. When confronted with this evidence during mediation, my wife finally cracked. Fine. We kissed. Once. But that's IT. I stopped it before it went any further. Her own lawyer put her head in her hands. You could feel the frustration radiating off her. Just once? My lawyer asked calmly. Yes. It was a mistake. I ended it immediately. I've been faithful to my marriage. Then why did you continue having dinners with him for 6 more weeks after this one kiss? Silence. And why is there a hotel charge on the joint credit card from 3 weeks ago? A hotel 45 minutes from here. On a night you told your husband you were attending a work conference. Her face went white. I hadn't known about the hotel until that moment in mediation. My lawyer had found it during discovery and saved it for maximum impact. That's not. Your conference was actually in the opposite direction. I verified with your employer. You weren't attending any work event that night. So where were you? My wife looked at me, tears streaming down her face. I can explain. You don't have to, I said. We're done here. The mediation ended without agreement. We're now headed for a contested divorce. Here's the current situation. My wife moved out last week. She's at her mother's with the kids half the time, per our temporary custody agreement. 50-50 split, alternating weeks. It's not ideal, but it's fair. Her best friend and I still talk occasionally. Nothing romantic. We're both dealing with our own stuff. But she's been a good friend through all of this. She told me recently that my wife tried to reconnect with her, claiming I had manipulated her into destroying their friendship, and that she was the real victim here. Her best friend didn't buy it. Her ex-boyfriend's wife filed for divorce too. Turns out his complicated marriage was complicated because he'd done this exact thing before with other women. My wife wasn't special. She was just the latest target. When I found that out, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Financial-wise, the divorce is going to be expensive. We'll probably have to sell the house and split the equity. I'll lose about 40% of my retirement savings to equitable distribution. That hurts more than I want to admit. 11 years of savings cut nearly in half. But the infidelity evidence helps with the asset split. My lawyer says I might get 55/45 instead of 50-50 due to what's called dissipation of marital assets. All those expensive dinners and spa days and the hotel room she charged to her joint account for her affair. It's not huge, but it's something. The custody situation is stable. 50-50, alternating weeks. The kids are adjusting as well as could be expected. Our daughter asked me last week if Mommy and I would ever get back together. I told her I didn't think so, but that we both loved her and her brother very much. She seemed to accept that. My wife still maintains I was controlling throughout our marriage. Still tells anyone who'll listen that I manipulated the situation and that she was the real victim. Her mother backs her up completely. Her sister recently called me a narcissist on social media without naming me directly. Subtle. But most people who actually know both of us have seen through it. The narrative doesn't hold up under scrutiny. When you have to explain why your platonic friendship required a hotel room, people stop believing your story about your controlling husband. Her best friend told me something that stuck with me. She always had different rules for herself. In all the years I knew her, she never saw the double standards. She genuinely believed she was entitled to things other people weren't. That's the whole thing, isn't it? She came to me with a rehearsed speech about platonic friendships and controlling behavior. She knew exactly what words would make me feel like the bad guy for objecting. She'd already decided what she wanted to do and constructed an entire moral framework to justify it. And when I applied that same framework to myself, when I had the audacity to treat her standards as universal rather than special exceptions for her, that was unforgivable. I'm not dating anyone. Not ready for that. The lawyer fees are eating into my savings, and I've got bigger things to worry about than romance. But I'm okay. For the first time in longer than I can remember, I feel like I'm living according to my own values, not constantly adapting to someone else's shifting rules. The divorce will take another 4 or 5 months to finalize. The house goes on the market next week. The kids will adjust to their new normal. What I know now is that I was never controlling. I never was. I was just married to someone who needed to believe I was so she could do whatever she wanted without guilt. Every boundary was controlling. Every expectation was too much. Every standard that applied to me was different when applied to her. She taught me what controlling really meant in her vocabulary. Anyone who expects the rules to apply equally. I'll remember that lesson going forward.